Now, the next thing we are going to look at is how we create the logout and login view. And this is perhaps, one of the simple things to do as far as Django is concerned. Now, Django has an inbuilt logout and login system for us that we are going to make good use of. And with that one, we don't even have to write a lot of code primarily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my project URLs, and what I have over here is URLs. Okay, so this is my project URLs, and I'm going to run an import over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say from django.contrib.auth, I'm going to import views, and this time around I also want to give it a different name. I want to give it a name as auth views. And the reason why I give these different names is, remember, I'm importing views. Okay, so the first one I did was the user views. Okay, the next one I'm doing is the auth views, and as far as those views are concerned, they need to have different names so that I can have that distinction. Okay, so we are using this as auth views, and as far as the django.contrib is concerned, it has these views that we can use as far as login and logout is concerned. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to create a path, and this path, I'm going to say, first one, I'm going to say login, and login is going to have access to the auth views dot, and we are going to say login view. So we have login view over here, and we are not quite done yet. We are going to say login view dot, and we are going to call the as view method over here. So this is a method, and we are going to give it a name for the URL. So the name for the URL, I'm going to say user.login. All right, so we have this user.login, and if your guess is as good as mine, we can do same for the logout. So I'm going to create a path over here, and the name is going to be logout, and I'm going to bring the trailing slash over here. Then I'm going to bring this auth view dot logout view dot as view method, and I'm also going to give it a name, and for the name I'm going to say user dash logout. So I'll bring in the trailing slash comma over here. Now let me open things up so that you see exactly what's happening over here. So what we've done is we've created the views, okay, but then the question is, where are we going to get a template from and things of that sort? So as far as the templates are concerned, remember I created some templates over here for the users. I have login and logout. Okay, I have login and logout, but then I don't have anything written over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the register, and first of all I'm going to copy this because I still want to have my title, my navbar in there. So I'm going to paste this in the login view, or the login templates, and I'm going to change the title to log in. All right, I'll save this. So login page, and for the logout too, I'll do same thing, and I'll change the title to log out. So I'll save this. Now remember, I have this crispy form tags running over here. We may or we may not need it, but then as far as the login is concerned, now let's do this over here. Now if I'm to come here and create a block content, okay, as far as the views are concerned, I can do block content, then I'll end block over here. All right, so inside this, I'm going to have the container. Then with the container, I have this. Once again, let me put out a margin top of 5. Then inside here, I can do the core, and I'll do core MD6. Then I'll do the border. I'll do the border class, And once again, I'll do a background of white, and I'll do an H3, and I'll call this login page. I'll end it with a horizontal rule, and finally I'll put in a form. So the form is going to have a method of post, and once again, let me put out a CSRF token. Remember the CSRF token, CSRF underscore token for our security. Then you put in a form over here. Then I already have the Django crispy forms over here, so I'll bring in the filter crispy. All right, good. So this is what we have, and it looks kind of, I mean, what are we doing now? We just created some HTML and apply some bootstrap stuff over here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put in a button. So I have an input of type submit, and I'll type in here for login, and I'll have a class btn, and I'll say success. All right, so I'll save this, and when I come back to come and refresh, yeah, we don't seem to have any problem. Now when I go to log in, we have a problem over here. So it says what? Template does not exist at login, and it's very important. So it is looking for a template somewhere, and it is not seeing it. Now the reason why it is not seeing it is because, remember, we've not created any view for our login. Okay, so it doesn't know what to return. So what we can do is we can come into our URLs, and inside the .as view, we need to specify a template underscore name over here. So this is going to take in the name of the template, and the template is found in user / and we have login.html. This is what I'm referring to. So it is in user, and we have login.html. Now when I save this and we come back to come and refresh over here, now we have this login view working for us over here. We are going to start some few things over here as well. So if your guess is as good as mine, we can do same for the logout. So I'm going to say template underscore name, and over here we are going to say user / logout.html. So I'll save this, and we need to work on the styling. So what I'm going to do is, as far as the border is concerned, I'm going to give a padding of 3 around it. Then the padding of 3 is going to make it look, yeah, a little bit cool. Then I also need to offset this. So as far as the offset goes, it goes on the core MD6. So I'll do offset, and I'll do MD-3. Okay, so once I do this, I have this centered in the middle, and this looks kind of cool. Now when we go into our logout view, we've typed logout over here. When I press enter, logout does not necessarily show anything over here, because as far as our template is concerned, it's kind of blank. We don't have anything over here. So for the logout, I'm going to put out a block content over here. So within block content, we are going to put out end block. Then I'm going to have the .container class. Then I'll do a .row .core MD6. Then I'll do an offset here as well. So I'll do offset MD3. Then I'll also do an MT5 over here for the margin top of 5. Then finally, what I want to do is I want to have a border and a P3 around it. Then what I can do over here is I can actually bring out the alert class over here. Then what I can do is I can do alert dash danger. Then I'll put in some kind of text in here. So I want to put it in an h4 tag. I'll say you have been logged out. So when I refresh this, let's say you have logged out, you have logged out. Okay. So when I refresh this, we clearly see this over here, but then we are not seeing the BG white over here. So I'll do a BG white on the border. So clearly you are logged out. And finally, before we even do this, then put out an H3 tag over here, and I'll say log out page. Then I'll put in a horizontal rule over here. And I think, yeah, that'll be it. All right. So you've been logged out. I want to put a link over here. And this link, let me put it right down over here. So I have the anchor tag. And we are quite used to this as far as template tags are concerned. So this is going to be a URL. And in here, we are going to say user, and we want to go back to our login page. All right, then I'll type in here login. So if I refresh this, we see login over here. When I click on this, it sends us to our login page. So now let's try logging in. Now we have a user called Ken in our system. And let's try logging in as Ken. So if I type in Ken and type in my password and try logging in, we get a problem. So it says what? Page not found. Okay, so it tries something funny over here, but then it's not funny. That's how the Django system has been made to work. So it is rather looking for accounts / profile and things of that sort. We haven't even talked about accounts and profiles over here. We are probably going to look at them later, but what is happening over here is Django is trying to log in into our system, but then it is not finding which particular route to use. Now, to get our way around it, we need to specify a route for this. So inside our settings.py, we need to come in here, perhaps maybe at the very bottom, and we need to type in login _ redirect _ URL. So this is going to be a login redirect URL. So if I log in, where do I want to go? This is the question this particular line of code is trying to solve. So if I log in, I want to go into dashboard and the index page. All right. So this is where we get our dashboard and the index page. Remember, this is our home page. So we want to immediately log in. You definitely want to get into your home page. So now let's try this once again. And let me refresh this. And let's log in as Ken. And this is going to be our password. So immediately I log in. Now we don't get that funny message. We are now logged into our dashboard. Good. So now let's try and work out the routing over here, because you have logout over here. I want us to click on logout and send us back. Now when you click on it, there's a dead link. And remember, this per design is in nav.html. So immediately we see something, we know where it is. So this is nav.html. So we quickly have to go into our partials. We go into nav.html. We look out for the logout. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the template tag over here, the URL, and the name of the link. So when we click on this, we want to go to logout. So logout is in user-logout. All right. So when I save this and when I come back to come and refresh, immediately I type or I click on this, I come to logout. When I click on this, I try to log in and things of that sort. Now, as far as this interface goes, there are some few things we want to change over here. Now, we don't want to be logged out and still have logout over here. Okay, we are logged out, so we don't have to press on logout again. So there are some few things we can change over here. Now we'll come back into our, so we are still in nav.html. Now within nav.html, there are some things we can do. Now let me try and duplicate this so that we'll see exactly what is happening over here. And let me open things up. So we are going to duplicate this whole thing over here. Control C. And I'm going to bring it down over here. Later on, we are going to work with this very well. So by just duplicating, we are just going to have two of these. Remember, we have a register page, okay? We have a logout and a login. So we want to make some of these register and things of that sort. Now, we are going to change this. We are going to change this to register. So this is going to be register. And as far as the registration goes, we have this route working for us. So we can do URL and we can do user-register. And as you can see, I need not to come and check where this route is, because I know per the structure of my work, in order to find this register, it is in my user application, because that is where I register users to. Then this logout is definitely going into logouts over here. So now let's change this to login. So we have login over here, and let's change this to login. Let me save this. Now we have logout over here and profile page. Good. So now when I refresh, we have register. When I click on register, yes, we have the registration page over here. And if we are already registered, we can now log in. Now I want to make this only appear if we are logged in, okay? And also make this only appear if we are logged out, because that will only make sense in that particular order. So in order to get that one done, we need to come perhaps to the very top over here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put out some logic. Now I'm going to say, and once again, I'm going to put out a template tag. Now, one of the things about template tag is template tags enables us to write Python logic within our template. Okay. So what I can say, if user, okay, dot is underscore authenticated. So you are trying to say if the user is authenticated, and an authenticated user is one that is able to log in. That's the logic behind what you are trying to implement. So if the user is authenticated, then you want to render everything over here, and we want to end if. So I'm going to say end if over here. So if the user is authenticated, then you want to see this. Now when I refresh this, we are going to see that everything is going to disappear because the user is not authenticated. So in order to work our way around it, we are going to bring the else statements just above these two links over here. So if the user dot is authenticated, do that else. We want to see this. All right. So if the user dot is authenticated, then we want to see this link. Okay. We also want to see dashboard. We also want to see admin profile, which we haven't created yet. And we also want to see this logout. Else, then perhaps we want to see the registration and the login panel. And that's exactly what this is trying to do. So when I refresh this back, now you have this. The user is not authenticated. So you can now register and you can now log in. So now let's log in. So you have KenBroTech. And if I type in my password in here, it says the password is wrong. Okay, I think the name was Kenneth Bruni, the one I registered with, Kenneth Bruni, and the password is this. All right, so now I log in, and now I have the admin. Okay, I have the KenBroTech and the admin dashboard over here, and I also have this over here. Okay, so now this makes a lot of sense. We don't have to have register over here because we are already registered. That's why you've been able to log in. We also don't want to have login over here because we are already logged in. But then when we click on this, it takes us back, and now we can now register and log in. So one last thing before I finish up with this particular video, I'd want us to have some kind of a general understanding of the whole life cycle of the project. So basically, a user will either have to log in or register for the first time. Now, after the registration, I'd want typically the user has to be redirected to the login page to log in before he or she can have access to the dashboard. And subsequently, after doing whatever the user wishes to do, then the user can log out. So it's like a 4-stage process. But within every process or every stage is some kind of activity that can go on. So that leads us to this is basically software engineering stuff where you definitely want to know exactly what is happening. So this we call the sequence diagram. So the sequence diagram specifies the sequence of activities that is performed at every stage. So at the very beginning, a user has to log in or has to have access to the login page. So has to log in into the system. And that's already going to happen if the user is already registered. Else the user has to register, and after registering, the user is directed back onto the login page. Then after the registration has gone through, so basically there are two types of users we are going to look at in the next video. Now after the user is registered, the user is either registered as an admin or as a staff. So an admin will have administrative roles and a staff will have some limited roles and permission. So there are going to be two dashboards or two interfaces you are going to work with. Now an admin will have access to the admin dashboard and a staff will have access to the staff dashboard. But regardless of which dashboard an admin or a staff may have, you all have access to some kind of database interaction, so they can work with the database. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to restructure our website such that whenever a user comes onto the website, the user is not directed to the home page, but then it is directed onto the login page. The user can either log in or register. Then after registration, the user is redirected back onto the login page, and definitely whatever he wishes to do can proceed from there. So now back into VS Code, I'm going to go into my dashboard app folder. I'm going to go into the urls.py. So inside urls.py, remember this view we have on line 5 is our root directory or our root URL. So whenever we type in www.keninventory.com, it is going to access the dashboard page, and that's not what you want, because clearly then that means if a user is not logged in, he or she is going to have access to the dashboard, which is not good. So over here, I'm going to create a new route. So this is going to be dashboard. So this is going to be /dashboard, and that's going to fetch the dashboard index and things of that sort. Then what I would want to do now is go into the user application, or not necessarily the user application, but then go into the projects, inventory projects folder, and go to urls.py. And as far as login is concerned, I'd want login to be our main URL. So immediately a user logs into the system, then clearly the user is going to be directed onto the login page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here and close this up, and our server is running. So what I can do is I can do a control and click on this link, and this is exactly what I want. So immediately you access the website, you are asked to log in, or you are asked to register if you don't have a registration. Now there's going to be a bit of a problem over here. Now let's say we register another user. So for this user, I'm going to register John. So John gets registered, and John has this email, john@gmail.com. Now John provides a password, and John provides confirms the password. So when I register, then this does not make sense, because when you register, it should link us to the login page so that we log in before we have access to it. And this is happening because, remember, with the routing that we did for the dashboard, you can see that it still does not consider this as an authenticated user, and that's why we don't have the KenIV, the KenInventory and dashboard over here. All right, so what we need to do is to go back into our views, our user application, going to views.py, and this is what is happening. So when we register, it returns a redirect into the dashboard index, and that's what exactly will happen. But then we want to return into the login page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a user login over here, and this user login is actually as a result of, we are getting it from here. When we go to the project URLs, you have this user login over here, and this is going to be our main page. All right, so I'm going to refresh this. When we log onto our website, we are directed here. We can log in now. So for instance, we already have admin, and if I log in as admin, I'm redirected here. So admin, I think I changed admin, so let's do this once again. So admin 1, and yes, so we have admin 1 over here, and everything is working perfectly. So now let's log out and log in again, and this time around we registered with John, and if we are to log in as John, we have everything working out over here. So now let's log out and register. It is after this registration that we want to go to the login page and log in before we have access to the page. So what we are going to do is we are going to register a new user, and I'm going to call this Mike. So Mike has an email of mike@gmail.com. These are just dummy emails, and the password I'm going to type. All right, so when I click on register, yes, I get registered. Then after which I'm asked to log in. So I'll log in as Mike. I'll type in my password, and it is then now I'm directed onto the dashboard, and that's where we have an authenticated user, so you can have access to everything we have over here. All right, so this brings us to the end of this video. Now we've been able to implement a login and logout route, and as far as the functionality is concerned, we've been able to implement some logic as far as what our navigation bar should look like whenever we are logging and whenever we are logged out. And we are gradually building our application. Now, if you find this video very interesting, there are a couple of ways you can help me grow my channel. Kindly subscribe to KenBroTech, and don't forget to hit on the notification button so that anytime I release a video, you'll be duly notified. Also, share this video with friends and family who find this content very useful. At KenBroTech, we say learn programming, you can do it. Don't forget to also ask any question or pass in a comment in the comment section if you do have one. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.